Here are the top 5 professions most likely to cheat. I'm going to start at number 5 and go to number 1. So number 5 are sales professionals, especially traveling sales professionals. This is kind of obvious. I mean, first of all, anybody in sales, you have to have a certain amount of charisma. And, you have to be a people person and learn how to, communicate with people. Now, in that sales profession, pharmaceutical salespeople, I don't know, for whatever reason, by far lead that list. I don't know. You think about all these different types of salespeople. There's car salespeople. There's, real estate agents, involved in sales. But pharmaceutical salespeople are at the top of that list. And I really don't know why. Maybe it's just a profession, maybe because they're somehow or another involved in the medical industry. But, whatever it is about them, they just have a high likelihood of cheating. And also they always have to constantly network. I mean, they know everybody and anybody. They're always like, hey, and they're always like schmoozing and, sales meetings and things like that. And anytime you get somebody who's away, especially traveling salespeople, sometimes these guys go away for like, a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever the case may be. Maybe they have a seminar or just like seeing a series of clients all in a row. It's just not a good profession to really, settle down and having a family. I'm not saying that they can't, but it's unlikely that they would. And even if they do, they're a very, very high likelihood to cheat. As I said, number 5. Now, number 4 are business owners and entrepreneurs. Again, you got the same kind of thing. Networking, charisma, dealing with people, except with entrepreneurs and business people, you have kind of like that authoritative figure. So when men and women get together, I mean, sometimes, it's the authority figure that is attractive, or someone in a position of power that becomes attractive. And that's why business people, entrepreneurs, are very highly likely to cheat. Also, they have egos the size of, Antarctica. And, they just, to feed that ego sometimes, they always look, for external validation outside the relationship, outside the marriage, what have you. And plus, a lot of things that people don't realize about entrepreneurs is the stress of business. Sometimes you just want to get away from it all and just escape for a couple of hours. And, those affairs that start, those little 3-hour things, on a Wednesday or a Sunday or whatever, that represents a little mini vacation. Now, we all know those are not real relationships, but, for them, it's just an escape from the stress. They could just go be someone else or have someone cater to them for a period of time. And, that's how these things happen. Number 3 is hospitality and nightlife. Okay, that pretty much goes without saying. Anybody in bartender, chef, host, anything where you're out of the house. I mean, typically restaurateurs, a chef, a maitre d', anybody like that is always going to be working while everyone else is off. Think about it. A restaurant business, the busiest time is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and to a certain degree, Sunday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they're working, and they're working long hours, these restaurant people. I know a guy who owns a restaurant up in New York. He works a lot of hours. He's not cheating or anything. He just works a lot of hours. So if he was of a different character, or maybe someone of, his wife or whatever, yeah, that definitely is a breeding ground for infidelity, for cheating. Also, you're talking about the hospitality industry. That includes bartenders. I mean, you mix, a bar with, hey, some attractive patrons, and here you go. Just throw a little bit of alcohol in there. It doesn't take much for things to start happening. So number 3 on that list is hospitality, and for good reason. Number 2, and you probably didn't know this, is aviation. Pilots, flight attendants. Oh, my sister's a flight attendant. Now, she's not doing anything, but she tells me stories of what goes on. I don't think she's ever told me a story of anybody she knew in that industry who isn't messing around. And it's the pilots, banging the flight attendants banging other flight attendants. I made the mistake of dating a flight attendant. I should say a woman who used to be a flight attendant. And even she told me those stories. It was terrible for her marriage, and she ended up getting divorced. And it was even terrible for our relationship, because it's kind of like, once a flight attendant, always a flight attendant. She just had this attitude, this disposition of just wanting to be, I don't know, she didn't want to be told what to do in any way. She didn't want to be tied down in any way. She just wanted to be free and make up her own mind, her own decisions. That included going out with her friends, having guy friends and things like that. She maintained all those connections through her flight attendant days, and it just didn't work out. And, for many, many reasons, but flight attendants, pilots, don't ever date a flight attendant or a pilot, okay? And now, number one, maybe you guessed it, maybe you didn't, is the hospital industry. Anybody in the medical field, nurses, doctors, EMTs, paramedics, firemen, cops, you name it. And that, to further extend it maybe into law enforcement, but let's focus on the medical industry. Think about this. These men and women are working 12-hour shifts, usually 3 to 4 days, and then they go 2 or 3 days off. And then it's a grind. That's a very, very long shift. They're typically working overnights, especially when they start their career and even well into their career. So they're out working while their spouse or partner is in bed. It's just not a good it's not a good system. It's not a good match at all, because, and not to mention that when you're in the hospital, you always have the nurses and the EMTs and the firemen. They just hang around and they commiserate. They socialize. And, you spend 12 hours a day, 3 or 4 days in a row, working while your partner is sleeping and around all this. Yeah, it doesn't take long. My sister is a nurse. I have friends who are in the medical industry, and they all tell me the same exact story. It's a shit show. Everybody is cheating with everybody, whether they're married or not. And the ones that aren't married are just promiscuous. It's just the nature of the beast. I don't know why. Some professions just get like that, and the medical industry is one of them. So keep this in mind. This is not me making it up. These are statistics. These are, studies that have been done, and they've pretty much remained the same over the past, 20, 30, 40 years. Well, they remain the same since women entered the marketplace, since women entered the workforce. And that really started to happen in the 80s. Now, I don't know about many of you, but when I was a kid, there was only one of my friend's mothers who worked, and she worked for her husband. Other than that, everybody was a stay-at-home mom. And that, you're going back to like the late 70s, early 80s. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't any working women. There were, but not nearly as many as there are today. And that is the reason. That is the biggest reason for the increase in infidelity and cheating in the workplace, because 93% of affairs start in the workplace. And the reason that happens is because there are far many women in the workplace today than there ever have been. And then now with cell phones and everything else that goes along with it, forget about it. I'm not going to say it's a nightmare, but it happens more now than it ever has, and I don't think it's ever going to stop.